Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Carly Stevens, and this is Carly Stevens Books for all things writing, publishing, and indie author life. And I am super pleased to be able to talk to Cath Lauria today. So, hey, thanks for joining me.
Thank you. It's so nice to be with you.
So, Cath Lauria is a Colorado girl like me who loves snow and sunshine. She prefers books to TV shows, has a vast collection of beautiful edged weapons. I have a couple myself. They're just like out of frame, sting the necessary ones.
I gotcha.
And could totally survive in the wild without electricity or running water, but would really prefer not to. She loves writing speculative fiction of all genres and has a long list of publications under her belt as romance author Carrie Z. So that is a, a lot of great information, but I feel like it doesn't even quite capture all that Kath has done in her author life. I'm so excited to get into today's topic of writing in somebody else's IP, somebody else's intellectual property, because it's just such a fascinating topic. So, what are some of the IPs that you have contributed to over the years?
Sure. So I started in IP fiction in 2020 with a short story in an anthology called Tales from the Crucible, and that is for the role-playing game Keyforge. And then that was sort of the proving ground. And once the people I was working for knew I could adhere to guidelines and submit a pitch and a synopsis and go through the ropes, uh, then I got to submit for Marvel, which I wrote 3 books for them, and it was the best thing ever, truly the best thing ever. And then I also written for a tabletop game called Zombicide Invader, which is futuristic zombies. They've got a medieval era and a modern era version as well. And then I have just finished a book, and it came out earlier this month for the game Call of Cthulhu, and they wanted a Regency romance
I saw that and I just
mixed with
about lost
Cthulhu.
it. I thought, "What is this?"
And I was approached by the editor, and she was like, "Look, I know this is a little bit weird, but you've done romance before, so I thought it might appeal to you." And she explained the concept to me, and I was like, "Oh, can I please have it? Please give it to me, please. I'll pay you to let me write this." And she was like, "You don't have to do that." But yeah, I fought for it because how often does that opportunity come along? Not often enough. So
Too
yeah,
true.
that's my most recent release, and I love it. Just love it. Yeah.
So how did you first get into writing? That's some fascinating stuff, but you've been writing for a while. How did this all begin?
Yeah, I've been writing for a really long time. I was one of those kids. You can tell those of us who are going to be writers someday because we're the kids who come around, we have our notebooks and we're doing our little thing. I mean, I was a kid in the 80s and 90s. Kids today are probably doing it on their phone, but that's cool. That's all good. And then I got into very obscure fan fiction. So like really obscure, like Horatio Hornblower, obscure. Another Regency era book. So you can see I've been building up to writing in the Regency for a long time. And then I started by publishing short stories, submitting to anthologies, um, when moved on to doing novellas, got up to the novel level, and I have never been represented by an agent. I've tried multiple times. I've come close, but it's just never quite tipped over into representation for me. But I'm actually, in a way, really not bothered all that much by that at this point because I feel like I've managed to forge a career without having an agent, which especially before the like 2010 and beyond with Amazon was really hard.
Mhm.
The professional and the indie publishing scene was not as accessible before then. So yeah, it'd be nice to have an agent, but I've managed to hack my way into the big five without them. So
That's not a story you hear often at all. It's usually the indie path or the querying the agent and that path, but you just kind of wormed your way into the middle, it sounds like. Do you have any independently
yeah,
published works?
so many. So many. If you look up RZ on Goodreads, you'll see over 100 entries, many of which were put out with publishers originally. And then all those publishers crashed and burned as the Amazon ecosystem was, destroying everything. And so I got rights back to a lot of stories. And then I got accustomed to writing on my own. And then I practiced in a way writing for IP because I liked co-authoring.
Hmm.
So I started up a co-authoring partnership with um, another writer who is amazing and incredibly prolific. And we have written probably 12 books or 13 books together,
Oh, wow.
started writing together, a couple of years since we began. Uh, so I'm very comfortable doing the indie publishing under my romance pen name. Getting Cath Lauria indie published is taking a little bit longer. I've got an urban fantasy series that I'm working on under that name. Um, but I'll get there. I'm confident that I'll get there in the end.
That's that's yeah, relatable at the end there. Anybody who watches or listens to this channel knows that I'm a multi-genre person as well. It's just it's the books of my heart, we're all such multifaceted people, and so I always love running into those that I'm really impressed with, what they've been able to do in their careers and their multi-genre because it goes against a lot of the kind of established wisdom, which is there for a reason, but not
Absolutely.
everybody's cut from the same cloth, so it's nice to meet a kindred spirit.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, kudos to the people who can focus on one genre and get their books out there and build that brand and make way more money at this than I do. Bless you. Bless you people for being a shining example. I can't do it. Just can't.
Mm.
Just can't do it. But that's okay. There are lots of ways to, to make to get to the goal, which is to tell our stories in a way that makes us feel happy, right? And have a
Exactly.
modicum of success along the way.
Yeah, money is nice.
It is.
We would both like more of it, but if it's more money or more joy, I think we both choose more joy as long as the bills are paid.
Exactly. Exactly. My baby's got shoes,
Right?
there's food on the table. So I can definitely afford that. And another cover, or to get my editor to look at this again, or, to do somebody else's book on whatever it is they want. So that's actually the nice thing about ghostwriting nonfiction. It's like giving my brain a break. It's almost
Mm.
like not writing at all because it's so outside of the realm of something I would ever do for myself, ever.
And you don't have to invent anything in the same way that you would have to in really any kind of fiction.
Exactly.
Um, since you do ghostwrite nonfiction, there's that. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. It's a totally different side of your brain that you're using to put that
Yeah,
together.
yeah, it's super relaxing. You don't have to worry about reviews. You don't have to worry about, a lot about whether your parents are going to be proud of you or whether you're going to be embarrassed when your daughter finds this book in 10 years. No, it's not. It's just, you're doing it for somebody else. Yeah. Enjoy.
So let's talk about the Marvel books that you've put out. I really like Marvel. I've stopped keeping up with it as much, like a lot of people, I think.
Yeah.
But up through Endgame, I was in it, and I just have gotten so much joy out of so many of those characters.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't grow up reading the comics. So what was the process like to become a licensed official Marvel writer, especially unagented? Like, did they reach out to you, or did you pitch a story? How did that come about?
It was it was I was really fortunate. I sort of found out about the existence of this company by accident. So I got this work through a company called Aconite. They specialize in managing, among other things, they specialize in managing IPs, particularly fiction, for big entertainment companies. So they have had contracts with Marvel. They've had contracts with Ubisoft, like the Call of Duty games, Assassin's Creed, um, lots of tabletop stuff. Uh, and I subscribed to a particular Patreon where for just $1, the person who ran it would give you every week a business breakdown of like calls for submission and what's the state of the publishing world and who's doing what and how screwed are we all. And at the very bottom of this one day was Aconite is looking for people who want to work in their IPs. I was like, and they don't, and I can just like ask them if I can do this. Okay. And so I sent in my application and they didn't obviously just take me off they didn't take me cold. I knew what their IPs were. They had talked a little bit about that in their call and they were like, we need to see that you can write, things that we're interested in. And I happened to get lucky a few years earlier writing for a small press that was magically able to get reviews in like Kirkus Reviews and Publishers Weekly and things like that. And I had
Nice.
written a superhero series that got really good reviews in like these big library journal and things like that. And so I was like, ding ding, take my books, have my big queer superheroes and see what you think. And they were like, oh my God, we love it. And I was like, what? And so then I did the anthology for them uh, to prove that I could do this kind of thing. And after that, Marvel was my first big client through them. And we were given a list of, so they didn't want to, here's the sad thing. I didn't get to do anything with people in the cinematic universe. I was like, give me Steve Rogers and I will make you cry. And they were like, nope, you can't have him, you can't have Spider-Man, you can't have Tony Stark, you and can't. In fact, we're gonna give you a list. There's a short list of the cans, and all this is cannot. I was like, that's fine, that's fine. So I went down their list. They were running a couple of different lines, and one of the lines was Marvel Heroines. And I was like, ooh, yeah. And one of the heroines was Elsa Bloodstone. And I was like, oh, what? I don't even know who that is, but she's a monster fighter. And so I pitched a story for Elsa Bloodstone after doing some research into her. Um, and a pitch turned into a synopsis, and a synopsis turned into a going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth with them saying, you can't do that, you can't do that, you can't do that, you can't have that, you can't have that, but you can't have that. Um, and the publisher helped me by giving me access to all of the online comic book content
Hmm.
for free. Uh, so yeah, I wrote up the proposal and they finally accepted it. And then I got 3 months to write it and I got 3 months to edit it. And then we put it out into the world.
Wow, that sounds like kind of a crazy process. Like how did you prepare to write that book once you realized, all right, this is the character that I'm gravitating toward? Did you read everything that existed about that character to make sure that you weren't stepping on any canonical aspects of her journey or what did that look like?
That was actually one of the reasons I chose Elsa Bloodstone to start, is because she didn't have a huge backlist. There were not decades and decades of deep lore that
Right,
I
that just sounds so intimidating to me. If you have
exactly.
comics going back all the way to the 70s and multiple time, oh, where I would feel kind of paralyzed, so that makes sense. Sorry to
Yeah.
cut you off.
So it's all about paring it down, right? And deciding, and that was the nice thing about Elsa Bloodstone. She came pared down because she's only had a couple of uh, her own runs, and they've been short. She's only made a couple of appearances in other runs, and then she did get kind of a shining moment recently. A couple of years ago, Marvel made her one of the main characters in their Halloween special. And the actress who did that actually read my book as part of her preparation for the character, which was like, oh, you did, which was really cool.
I
So
love that.
it was so cool. Oh my God. Oh, so yeah, I picked Elsa because she was less intimidating. And then I read everything I possibly could. And then I focused on what I thought was cool about her and tried to design my story around that. I sent in multiple pitches. I think I sent in three.
Hmm,
And then they picked one. And then I expanded that into an actual synopsis and proposal.
hmm.
So
So so you had to pitch it like you would pitch a novel to an agent, but it was to this company that organizes all of this, and then once they accepted a pitch, they sent it to the
So
decision-making
yeah,
honcho people? Is that am I
kind of.
understanding
So
that correctly?
yeah, my pitches went to the in-house editor who was managing things in Aconite first, and we tightened them up. And then they sent to the managing editor, the Marvel employee and editor who would be editing the actual books as our like secondary source and resource, and had them go through it all to make sure I wasn't stepping on any cinematic toes,
Mhm.
any like canon toes, any timeline wimbly, like wishy-washy, timey-wimey stuff. Um, and so yeah, it was a lot of layers. That IP in particular, I'm looking at my bookshelf over here. I've got like 1,000 books on my wall right here. So that IP in particular had a lot of steps because it's so old and so established, um, that there's just, yeah, there was a lot to keep in mind and not screw up, which
Yeah, I've
was,
heard oh, I've heard mixed, kind of reports from people, actors mostly, who have worked in one way or another with the Marvel universe. Some people have loved it, some people have hated it if because of all the restrictions and things like that. Did you run into any unexpected, uh, you know, guidelines slash rules or checkpoints or things like that as you were working with, I mean, that it
oh,
sounds like that's your most well-known IP anyway that you've worked
yeah,
in.
it is. And honestly, I like writing to order.
Mm,
It's
mm,
just something I've always been able to do. Like I've got the things that I enjoy, and I try to imbue the things I enjoy into the projects I do with other people's characters. There are a lot of people out there who you say you write IP fiction, and they're like, oh my God, I could never do that
mm.
because they're not mine. They're not mine. And I get that. I absolutely get it. By the same token, they're cool, right? They're cool as hell. So I'm not going to pass up the opportunity to get paid to write a monster hunting badass just because she's not mine.
Do you
I'm
feel like she's yours now?
Absolutely. I got to
Mm,
make her mine for a book, and she had a fabulous adventure darting around the globe, destroying monsters, visiting her father's old, like the original owner of the Bloodstone was Ulysses Bloodstone. He was the first comic book character in that particular bloodline. And it was just wonderful. It was so much fun. It's stressful, but I like working under deadlines. That's
mm,
the other thing about being an indie author, right? You're only cracking the whip on yourself. So one of the things working with publishing companies does for me is it imbues my life with a little bit of discipline, which I
mm.
really appreciate. Yeah, so no, there were no surprises because I got it all out of the way at the beginning. Like that's, and by the time I turned the book into them, I adhered to my synopsis. There were no surprises. You can't let that happen when you're writing IP fiction, right? You can't just be like, oh, well, the characters told me I needed to do something else.
Right.
No, they don't get to talk, you know? That's not their place. You own them for the space of that 82,000 words, and they're going to do what you say when you say it, or you don't do it again.
But evidently you did because you said there were 3 books
Yeah, I got to do
with
three
her.
Marvel books. Yeah, I got to do Elsa Bloodstone, and then I got to do Black Cat Discord. Black Cat, oh, so amazing. Oh, that book is my absolute favorite that I did from Marvel. She
Oh,
spoiled
wow.
me so much. She's like you know who Black Cat is?
I don't actually.
She's super duper. She's the Selena Kyle of the Marvel world.
That
She's
that
like,
was the other thing that came to mind, but it was
yeah, she's
the
this.
wrong company.
Um, so there's Catwoman in DC and then Black Cat. She's this amazing thief who does not have superhuman abilities, but has like a long history working with and against Spider-Man.
Hmm,
And so I got to do a lot of the Spider-Verse stuff. And they actually
cool.
did end up letting me mention, like, put in a few tiny scenes with Peter Parker, and Tony Stark actually in Black Cat Discord, which was awesome. Um, but yeah, it was basically like it was a treasure hunt. Like, I also had a treasure hunt with a gorgeous, brilliant, hyper intelligent, super cool heroine. So much fun.
I feel like I
Oh,
need to read this now. Like I
oh
need
my
to hop
God.
off and
I have to show you. So as long as we're talking about it, I might as well show you the book. This is the book. And it got nominated for a Scribe Award last year, which is it's the awards for IP fiction, basically, for people who
Okay.
write in other people's IPs. For Best Original Novel, didn't win, but I'm still super proud of it. It's so much fun. So much fun. Oh my God. Just like I wanted to write another one. And they were like, would you like to write something else with Black Cat? And I was like, yes, please God. And they're like, okay, you're gonna write about Silver Sable. And I was like, wait a second. Who? Who? Silver Sable? And then I had to do research into Silver Sable and find a way to give her the top billet in a book and yet also bring Black Cat into it because work, her arc ended up being really popular.
Hmm.
Um, and I was like, yeah, I can do that. Sure. And I did. So that was fun. That was so much fun. But that contract ran out. So no new stuff currently is being contracted with Marvel. But if they come back,
Sounds like you'd be ready. I'm glad you had such a great experience. It sounds like it was right up your alley. Like,
oh,
you
it's really
enjoy having some of those parameters and the ability to play just within the confines of what has to be there for something like.
exactly. Yeah, well, I loved it. I loved it. I feel like there's a certain subset of people who really like playing inside, like going all over the place, but playing inside some well-defined lines. Like these are people who are going to be your dungeon masters when you're playing D&D. These are the people who are, you know, they're your background world builders and your in your video games, and there are people like me who are like, give me all your stuff, and I just want it for a little while, and I'm going to give you something cool, and then I'll walk away.
That's lovely. So for people who are listening to this saying, "Yes, that is that is 100% me. I would love to write for Marvel or Star Wars or something like that someday." What advice would you give to those authors? Um, yeah, I'll just
Yeah,
leave it open.
sure. Uh, yeah, part of it was, I mean, I won't lie and say that there was no luck involved. There was some luck involved because I happened to see the right ad at the right time. I know that Aconite is not currently looking for more writers. That doesn't mean they never will. There are also some other well-established IPs out there and presses that work with them that you can research. But for the most part, I would say just be prepared. Like I got the job because I like writing superheroes and I had written superheroes on my own before, published them with somebody else, could have indie published them, got good reviews. I did the legwork that I didn't realize was legwork at the time that ended up paying off.
Hmm.
Because when they needed the right example, I had it available. Not everybody has to go that way. I know like writers like Daniel Jose Older, who writes a lot of Star Wars stuff. He has an agent who directly assisted him in pitching to the people who run the Star Wars IPs to Disney that he would like to do that. And I think back in the day, Chuck Wendig did as well. My books are not on that. They're not that big of an IP. I mean, Marvel is big, but they focus on the cinematic stuff right now. Um, but you've got to have a body of work to
Hmm.
show. So I think it would be hard to go into writing for one of these IPs absolutely cold. Um, One of the people who writes for Marvel, Jaylee Johnson, I think her name is, she has also worked through Aconite. Um, and she's got an agent. She's got a fabulous agent, who I'm sure helped her get to this point. But she's also been published with Big Five, so you know there's a variety of people um, who I know of personally who are making it work. But you don't have to have the agent, but you do have to have work and
Hmm.
a work history.
So for you, writing those superhero books was the perfect kind of apprenticeship to set yourself up for that. Maybe not apprenticeship, but that right kind of practice. So,
Exactly.
if you're out there and you're thinking, I'd love to write for, in the Dune universe or something like that, then nothing's stopping you from writing in that genre and, kind of getting yourself set up for any opportunities that arise.
Exactly.
Cause it seems like there are so many books in some of these areas that eventually they have to look for
They
someone
do.
to jump in, why
Why
not
not
you,
you?
I guess.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. People have sometimes asked me, how did you get that job? Oh my God, you're so lucky. And I'm like, no, I am so lucky. Oh, that's not what you want to hear. No, you're looking for the way, and the way is just to do it.
Mm.
Just, and do it a lot and do it for yourself. Um, because like, I mean, I wrote 3 books all about queer, self-destructive, awful superheroes and supervillains. Um, called the Panopolis books, and no major publisher was going to touch those at the time, which is why I went with a small press. Um, and it worked out. But I would not have been sorry if it had never become my entree into doing IP fiction because I still love the books.
Yeah, you love them for themselves and you wrote them for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I'm glad it did work out for you though, because it just sounds like such a blast, and I will have to get my hands on a copy after we get off this call. Yes, the Black Cat Discord.
That's good.
Um,
Unless you're in a Regency mood, in which case get Secrets and Sacrifices, because that one was also crazy fun.
the Cthulhu Regency romance.
Regency
I don't even
romance.
know how those words go together.
Oh, they were like, think Pride and Prejudice meets Cthulhu. I was like, God, I can do that immediately. Right? Because it's a ridiculous comedy of manners. So everything important is being hidden anyway. So why not hide a few bodies at the same time and some unfriendly cults and a few interdimensional beings of terrible power? I mean, there's no downside.
You you can you can s you can pitch a book. I'm every book you talk about, I'm like, "Ooh, I've got a, Bloodstone. Oh, and the
I feel like
Regency monsters. Oh."
I feel like my own enthusiasm for the books that I really like comes through, and I really like those books. They're so fun. They're so fun. I
So
just, yeah, I love them.
so for anybody who wants to find your work, learn more about you, where can they do that online?
You can go to cathlauria.com. You should find all of my IP fiction there, as well as some of my original stuff. Or if you're in a romance slash sci-fi slash dystopian slash fantasy slash occasionally contemporary, which I hate for the most part, but I do it every now and then. Slash suspense slash, um, then you can look up Kari Z, author KariZ.com, or just find me on Amazon. There are pages and pages, Kari, Cariz. Yeah, I'm all over the place. I'm on Goodreads. I don't like to go to Goodreads, but my books are there, so you'll find me.
All right. Well, I will put all those links down below to make it easy to track down Kath and all of her varied and really fun sounding work. Thank you so much for spending this time with me and just, explaining your whole process and the journey that you went on to get these kind of coveted gigs. It really was just a pleasure talking to you. So, yeah, thank you so much for joining me. If you're out there watching, like this video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe for more interviews and indie author stuff. Until then, bye.
Thank you very much. Bye, everybody.